Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Orphan Black. So this episode deals heavily with the aftermath of the last episode with Kendall being killed by Evie, and and that cop dude. And like I said last time, Mrs. S was going to be pissed, and she is pissed. Essentially blaming Sarah because, Sarah went behind her back, set up this whole deal, and now her mom's dead. Just when they were kind of getting to a good place, her and her mom couldn't stand each other at the beginning, but then, after all this time, they finally, they came back to each other in each other's lives. And now they had each other again, and, now she's gone. She'll never have her back. And Sarah, she's like, it hurts for me, too, because Kendall is our blood. Kendall gave birth to the casters as well as all the Lita clones. So, she was just as much blood to me as she was to you. And then Siobhan said something very hurtful. I was like, ouch. When she said that you came to me as an orphan, and that's all you will ever be. She just said anything she could just to hurt Sarah because she legitimately blamed her and just was like, she was fine with, Sarah going off on her. She's like, I'll keep Kira here because I know what you're going to do. You're just going to do something stupid like you always do. And, she goes off. And it's really sad because this was a very somber episode. Typically these shows kind of have, these episodes typically have, a little bit of drama, a little bit of comedy. It's, a very somber episode all around because it's just, you see everyone dealing with it in their own ways. Sarah literally going on a bender. She's, drinking herself, trying to drink all her sorrow and problems away. Essentially, and you see it constantly gets reflected in this episode. She constantly sees Beth there because she's literally falling apart like Beth did. Beth found out the truth and it was too much for her. I mean, obviously, she was doing drugs and all that before because it was all too much for her. Obviously, she ended up killing herself for the purpose of protecting them because it was the only way because she couldn't let them know what she knew. And if what she knew died with her, then the rest of her sisters would be protected. That was her way of protecting everyone. But for Sarah, it's just she needs to just drown her sorrows in some shape or forms, whether that includes, doing drugs, random hookups, as well as drinking. She even, came across Dizzy, at a bar or whatever, and, trying to get busy with him, trying to just do anything she can to forget about what's going on. But even Dizzy was kind of getting into it, because I was under the pressure. I was thinking, okay, Dizzy's going to be a good guy, and he's going to, prevent her from doing anything stupid, especially when Felix revealed to him, oh, she has a little girl. So I thought he was going to act upon that. I thought, he's going to go in the bathroom, knock that dude out, and drag her back home or something. I was like, nope. Dizzy just kind of went with the flow, because he kind of, I don't know, maybe on some level he kind of likes Sarah and whatnot. Speaking of which, we still haven't heard anything about Kira's dad since season 3. That's the last time we saw him. We haven't seen him since then. They've referenced him earlier in the season, but we haven't seen him pop up since then. He hasn't really come up in conversation that much. Just something I was thinking about. But it was really sad just to see her kind of hit that low. It's just she was having sex, about to hook up with Dizzy, but then Dizzy was just kind of constantly bringing it up because Sarah just wanted any kind of distraction, to kind of not be thinking about, this whole situation. And it ended up, Dizzy kept bringing up the thing in her mouth, the bot. He's like, you got rid of it. He talked about the fact that he knew some people who had, the fact is Dizzy's so, he kept bringing it up, and Sarah's just like, no, just drop it. It's I came here just to have a good time. You can't even do that for me. So the way he's talking about it makes me think either Dizzy himself has one and he hasn't said anything, or it's just someone very close to him has one and he just wants a he needs a solution so that he can help that person out. So. But like I said, I honestly thought Dizzy would have been a good guy and kind of been your brother was looking for. He didn't bring any of that up. He was just kind of caught up. I guess because he figured if he could get her drunk enough, then she'll kind of open up about everything, because he kind of brought it up earlier, but she was a little wasted and she was like, hey, I don't want to talk about it. So I'm guessing he wanted to get her a little bit more drunk so he can kind of pump her for information. But that's just on Sarah's side of everything. I mean, she ended up almost going to she was like, oh, I was trying to get to a train or whatever. So I was like, are you about to, it was really scary because it's sad. She's she blames herself so much for this. And you could argue, but okay, it is Sarah's fault, whatnot. But it's she wanted to protect the people that were close to her. And, Kendall was okay with it too, because Kendall wanted to protect them just as much as Sarah did, because Kendall, in the beginning, she was just kind of oh, you're clones. But then she came to care for them, especially that last conversation she had with Cosima, dude. That was it was so heartbreaking, dude, especially in this episode where you see Cosima reliving that moment over and over again, and she out of anyone blames herself especially because she's the one that went to Sarah about this whole thing in the first place. She's the one that kind of pushed, in her mind, she's like, I pushed like them to do all this, and it's my fault that Kendall's dead. Just everything's just shit because of me. And both of them are just dealing with that. Like, out of anyone, they're the most regretful about this because they blame themselves. And it's like, in that situation, you both did what you thought was right, because Sarah wanted to protect Cosima. She wanted to save Cosima, find a cure for her. It's like, there's no way, any shape or form you could have found, like, would have seen a betrayal, like, of Evie's magnitude. There's no way you would have seen that coming, because Susan sure as hell didn't see it coming, didn't see that takeover coming. So it's like, how could you? I mean, you could argue it's like because they didn't have all the details, they went into this a little, like, they like ran headfirst into this situation without really giving it a lot of thought. You know, I feel like would things have really been any different, you know, if Siobhan had been brought into it? Because she probably would have said no, obviously, but they went around her back. But I feel like Kendall went through with it because Kendall herself knew she didn't have that much time. She had leukemia. It was only a matter of time. You know, she probably would have wanted to do anything she could to protect, you know, her sisters, because that's what they are to her. So, but, you know, Cosima, like, you know, the whole Kendall situation, plus on top of that, fighting about Delphine, she was just like, you know, like that guy that was running the comic book store that he helps out Scott and Cosima. He was just like, you know, we could, count on your lab partner. And she's like, my lab partner's dead. And told Scott's like, no offense. He's like, some taking. He's like, I know I'm not Delphine, but I'm still here and I still got your back. And so they decided that they could use the bot they got out of Sarah's mouth as a potential way of finding a cure. But, like, Scott was against using it because, like, Cosima was saying, like, why not just use it on me? But then Scott was like, no, don't do that. It's like, she's like, okay. But she, like, locks the door, locks them both out, and decides to do it herself. Cut her mouth open and put the bot inside of her. Because she figures, you know, she's in so much pain about Delphine, about Kendall, that she's okay with dying because, for one, it get rid of all her pain. Two, that means even if this thing ends up killing her, ends up doing something to her, she could be researched to the others. If any shape or form she could be useful to her sisters in any shape or form, being like, oh, just study what happens to me and then maybe it'll help eventually find a cure for you guys, then maybe, you know, it'd be worth it, you know, risk reward. Like, just as the risk is so great, that means maybe the reward will be just as much too. You know, like I said, studying her body, which is like very short-sighted of her, because for one, you never know if there might be any results that come out of it anyway. But she was in so much pain, she just wanted it to end. And it's just, it's sad because you've never seen Cosima like that. Like, you've seen others like that, but just not her, and it breaks your heart seeing her out of anybody else like that. And you see Allison kind of breaking down, and Donnie's like, let's cancel our daughter's birthday party. You need to deal with this, babe. But she's kind of like, no, she wanted to keep, you know, bring some normalcy to her daughter's life, you know, keep things normal. And it's like, canceling this birthday party would just be giving in to the craziness that is their life. But Donnie even invited a preacher over so that she could talk, a priest over so that she can talk. But she didn't want to open up about it. Because she was even trying to write a letter to Siobhan talking about how sorry she was, but she couldn't, you know, really find the words for it. She got like partway into the letter, and then she broke down, and Donnie walked in on her breaking down. And it also had that cop who's part of Neolution, the one who actually pulled the trigger on Kendall. We see him, he's there along with those other cops who came investigating the drugs, as well as those people being murdered, you know, during that, like the ones Helena killed, investigating Allison and Donnie for it. Granted, this was after like Art kicked the shit out of him, because Art found out, it's like, oh yeah, this guy was the one, he pushed Beth over the edge, and he also killed Kendall. And I was under the assumption, the way Siobhan was cleaning her gun and everything, two targets came to my mind. It's like, either she's going to kill Evie or she's going to end up killing that dude, which is not a good thing. He is a cop after all. But like, I like the way, I was like, Art, I was like, yeah, which I was like, yes, Art, kick his ass. But at the same time, I was like, Art, somebody's going to walk in on you and you're going to get fired for it. But surprisingly, nobody walked in on him. But essentially, he was like, do what you want to, Art. You can't do anything. You can't touch Evie. And he's basically saying that you need to watch yourself, because they know about his, you know, connection to the clones and how much he's helped them out, especially the whole situation with Beth. When Beth, what was her name? The lady that Beth kind of got in trouble for, got investigated by IA for in season 1. Well, I mean, obviously, you know, that Sarah kind of got caught up in season 1. Was it Maggie Chen? She had killed her, and Art had replaced, basically put a phone on her or something like that to make it look like it was like an accident by Beth. And Like, he was basically throwing that in his face and be like, you never know where the next blow is going to come from because they've got their eyes set on you now. It's like, it's too late to back away from this situation. Kind of had your chance already, but now Neolution's got their eyes set on you. You don't know in what direction the next blow is going to come from. And I kind of skipped over it because I just caught up in that whole. But the fact is, well, I'm going to finish my thought first. Basically, he came there and Donnie got arrested, and he's basically like giving Allison one of his cards, being like, "Oh, you may want to make sure to stay in contact with me." Now, I chalk that up to they're arresting Donnie because they're trying to put Allison in a compromising position. Like, because it doesn't make sense to me why you would arrest only Donnie, even though they were investigating both Allison and Donnie. So I can only chalk it up to that they're trying to like push her in a situation, because Neolution is actually planning on getting rid of him, because it ended up coming into a conversation because it was like Rachel and Susan were talking to Evie as well as other people who are board of directors or whatever. Because basically Evie's taking things over and is kicking Susan out. And essentially Rachel was like, because Evie was like, we're shutting down everything, all clone-related projects, as well as all monitoring. It's like, we don't care about the clones. They can do whatever they want. They have limited time anyway. They're eventually going to die from this disease anyway. But said Sarah, Cosima, and Allison are exceptions because they could prove to be problems that basically they could end up, they've been problems in the past, and it means they can be problems in the future, so they need to be taken care of. And Rachel's like, I can offer you my help, and then essentially wanting a position in, this new Neolution, like, controlled by Evie. But basically Evie's like, why would we do that? She's like basically shutting Rachel down. It's like, you thought you were in a powerful position before, why would we put a clone in a powerful position that actually mattered, making basically everything Rachel's accomplished and done mean absolutely nothing. She always thought she was in control, even, amongst herself as well as the other clones, because she was the only one that was self-aware, because from a very young age, she knew about her being a clone, being monitored, and as well as the other clones. So she always felt like she was a little superior to them. But when it comes down to it, it seems that even she was next to nothing in all this. And there was that scene at the end with her. Granted, she saw that swan thing, and I don't get what that's supposed to mean. I have no idea. I can't even hazard a guess as what the hell that's supposed to mean. And she also told Charlotte the truth, which is like, that's a lot for a little girl to handle, about finding out that she's dying. That's not just like, some regular sickness. Like, she's definitely sick and it will eventually kill her. And she said eventually later on down the road, Rachel herself will get sick and die as well. Because it's sad, because it's like, even though Cosima's the only one showing symptoms now, they're all going to potentially get sick, just like all the casters will eventually get sick too. And it's just, to me, it's like the casters kind of have it a little, I don't know, it's hard to judge who has it rougher, because the casters go crazy. They glitch out and then they die. They go a little nuts. But, the leaders, they just get sick and die. So it's kind of hard to judge who. I'm not going to say who has it rough. Both of them have it a very hard time, and it sucks all across the board. But when it's all said and done, at the end of it, Felix is able to get to Sarah. Because like I said, she was imagining Beth this entire time. And Beth was just like, it's up to you, Because Felix is telling her, like, you're stronger than Beth. And Beth is telling her, like, you have to bring all our sisters together. It's up to you. Because even Felix said it earlier in the episode, no matter how pissed you are about Sarah, just the way she handles everything, she is still the glue that holds this whole thing together. And it's kind of crazy, because she didn't want none of this. She stumbled upon this because she took Beth's identity. Like, who knew stealing someone who looks like you, stealing their identity, who knew that would come back to lead to such a good and bad thing? Because they expanded her family. She's got to know Cosima, she's got to know Allison, as well as all these other clones, but it's just like, it's brought a lot of bad stuff to her life too, and it's just led to everything being as it is now. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm interested to see where everything goes from there. And also, I was about to skip over. The fact is, we find out that Delphine is actually possibly still alive, because Crystal, when she says she saw Delphine getting shot, she saw Delphine being carried away. So Evie might be lying, talking about Delphine's dead, just so she could break Cosima even more, because she felt like it was a way to make sure that she keeps Cosima from being too much of a nuisance. Because out of any of the leaders, Cosima is the smartest one, and she knows how to like really understand. Like she, out of anyone, has a better understanding of everything going on because of just how smart she is. So maybe that was her plan, because I felt like they were going to do something with Delphine. Like I said, that was my, like, I don't know. Like I said, I looked away when that whole Delphine situation happened in season 3 because I didn't want to see it. I knew it was coming when she was walking that parking lot by herself. I was like, damn it, Delphine, why didn't you get out of town when you had a chance? You waited too long and now they're going to kill you. And I've always found out what happened to her because of these, like every time they kind of referenced it, it was like, oh yeah, there's her getting shot. I don't know whether that's because that was everything they showed or whether like we're just finding out more details now about it. It was like, oh, we saw her get shot, that's it, and now we're getting extra details about it, or whether there were other things that were there and I just missed it because I didn't want to see Delphine die because it's just like, it's too heartbreaking, because I would have expected, Cosima to end up finding out, like, in between season 3 and 4, but it's like, nope. This entire time, she's never had any idea whatever happened to Delphine. She's always held it in her heart, being like, she hoped that Delphine was alive, but there was a part of her that was like, Delphine's probably dead because of everything that's going down. So, like I said, a very sad episode, and I'm very interested to see where everything goes from here, because I want to find out more about the whole Donnie situation, like how they're going to handle that, are they going to use Donnie as a means of trying to get to Allison and try to use her to get to the other sisters. It's just like, to me, that whole situation was even sadder because it's like literally at Donnie's daughter's birthday party, and like there's all these kids around, and they did that. They could have handled that situation a little bit better. Now, to me, like, so now it's something I remember to kind of jot down as a note. It just came back to me, was maybe like, how did Neolution, like how did that whole thing come up about them finding out about Donnie's extracurricular activities? Now, remember there was that drug dealer that they were working with, the one that was connected to Allison, like they were high school sweethearts. Like Donnie kind of like went off on him, almost tried to fight him, and ended up getting his ass kicked for it, and that guy kind of backed away from it. Maybe it's him. Or the reason why the cops know is because Neolution was keeping an eye on them, and they decided they could use, like I said, use this whole situation to their advantage. Because it's like they were decently okay with, like, handling that situation, because it never came up at all during season 3 while they were drug dealing. That came up, oh, the cops were onto them or something. Which, side note, we haven't seen Angela in a while. The last episode we saw Angela in present day. Wasn't that back in? Was that season 3 or was that season 2? I think it was season 3, because when Donnie found out the truth. But it was that was the last time we saw her. I mean, obviously we saw her at the beginning of the season in a flashback, finding out about Beth's kind of final days. But I was pretty sure out of anyone she would have come back to kind of bite them in the ass. Maybe she doesn't work there anymore. I don't know, or maybe they're just done with that character. I have no idea. But I feel like Neolution had to be behind them kind of getting found out. Not unless they were very sloppy about it. From what I could tell, it seemed like they were pretty good about it, especially because Allison's a little OCD and anal and keeps everything in particular order. So I feel like she wouldn't have been too sloppy about everything. But, that's how I'm thinking. I'm thinking Neolution had something behind, like, the police finding out the information. Because, I mean, to our knowledge, the only one of the cops who is Neolution is that guy with, the glasses, the one Art kicked his ass this episode. Yeah. And like I said, we did have that scene of Siobhan fixing that gun. Obviously, that could have been her biding her time. But it's like, I feel like she's about to gun somebody down. Whether it's that guy or Evie, I guess we won't know till the next episode. And I also came up again about Kira having her connection to everyone. Because she was like, oh, mommy's about to follow Beth. It's like, I want to hurry up and get an answer about what is Kira and why does she have a connection to them. And also, we had MK contacting her. I feel like out of anybody, why would MK contact Kira specifically and not Sarah? Not unless she was meant to get to Kira so that she could pass on a message to Sarah, because that was the only secure way she could get in contact with her. Which, side note, very interesting, we get to see Kira up there playing Minecraft. I like that little subtle, like, hey, Minecraft. Anyway, I know it's just something I couldn't help but like giggle a little bit, like, oh, Minecraft. I don't know why, I'm just weird like that. But it's gonna be interesting to see how everything goes from here. We do have Sarah and Siobhan slightly getting back together. Siobhan fixed their breakfast, and then we were holding hands the last time we saw. So they're kind of in a good place. Probably not near where they are. It's going to take a little while to get back to where they are, but hopefully soon enough they will. Because like she even explained it to Kira, saying it's not 100% Sarah's fault because it is a complicated situation, and like Sarah was just trying to do the best she could. The situation could have been handled a little bit differently, but like I said, Evie's betrayal. How could anyone see like that usurp like that? No one could have seen that coming. But it'd be interesting to see what kind of offensive, like, where they go from here. Like I said, Cosima knows Delphine's alive, and then most likely Neolution has her, so she's going to want to take them down. Sarah is definitely going to want to take them down, because of Kendall, obviously, and, Siobhan is too, and as well as Cosima. So it's be very interesting to see where we go, and see, will there be any new development when we learn from that bot in Sarah's mouth? And, what about Dizzy? Like, I feel like he's got to have some special move in all of this, because like he was brought in for a reason. I feel like they didn't just bring him in just for shits and giggles. I feel like he has a purpose in all this, especially like because he's asking so many questions about the bots. Like I said, either he has one or someone very close to him has one. So it'd be kind of interesting to see where everything goes from here. And because Crystal knows about Delphine, does that mean we're going to see a little bit more Crystal? And it's like, will she be brought in? Because we're still keeping her in the dark, telling her like, oh yeah, your cosmetic conspiracies are right. So like, I don't know. Just very nice episode. Obviously super sad because it is the aftermath of just everything that went down last episode. But still can't wait to see where we go from here. Because I'm pretty sure this is episode 7. So there's like 3 more after this. So can't wait to see like what else they do in this season. But that's about it. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.